We're here at the headquarters of our Department of Public Safety to sign into law a bill that was passed by the Board of Legislators and suggested by our professionals in law enforcement as a way to tighten up and bring up to date a procedure that will help them in trying to recover lost property from those that are out there trying to steal that lost property, particularly in the area of precious metals and gems, things of very high value that often are the target of robbers when they break into homes and whatever else they do. We're joined here today by our Commissioner Sheriff Tom Gleason. We also have with us Deputy Commissioner Terrence Rayner. We have our Chief Inspector John Hodges, also Chief Inspector Chris Calabrese is with us. We have some other senior members of the Department of Public Safety who are here. John Gassione from our Department of Consumer Protection is here, and he's going to speak a little bit about this because there's consumer protection as well as the law enforcement community that advanced this idea. And the legislator who represents the district, a strong supporter of the legislation in the Board of Legislators, Margaret Kunzio, is with us as well. We'll go through a little bit, and then we'll have some other speakers, and then any questions you have is fine. And then, as always, at the end, if you want to interview anybody one-on-one, there'll be plenty of opportunity for that. Very simply, this bill will solve a loophole in the law that basically is created by the change in technology. If we go back whatever number of years we want to pick, some of us who've been in some capacity of employment for more than 25 years or so, remember when most all of our records were paper records and were not computerized. And for those of us who've gone through the process of computerization, there was always a promise that it would be more efficient and more effective in whatever form of work you do. Almost all of us now have laptops, and we do so much of what we do on computer. The task to investigate a crime in which a high-value gem, jewelry, precious metal has been stolen was always a laborious process for detectives to try to go through actual paper records from any number of different sources where the items might be sold to. And of course, those who are in law enforcement will speak a little bit more in detail about this. But the bottom line is, by creating this electronic registry, we make the process of detection of the crime much quicker. The faster it can be identified that a particular item showed up at a particular pawn shop or whatever dealer it might be, will help the police detectives zone in on the person who may have committed the crime much quicker. And often we find that if we don't immediately track an individual down, and they have a chance to get beyond a certain amount of time, it may not be possible to find them and intercept them and bring them to justice. So there's a lot of people that can claim proper credit for this. We're going to ask our Commissioner Sheriff to speak. He will be followed by a Deputy Commissioner, and then by John Gassione and the Legislative Kunzio. And then after that, I have a pen. Margaret, will be yours in a second, but it's just a regular pen. But we'll sign it into law, and Legislative Kunzio will take the credit for it. But next, our Commissioner Sheriff, Tom Gleason.
So I'm not here to take any credit, but I would love to give some out. This bill certainly enhances our ability to identify persons who have sold stolen property, and not only increase the odds of recovering the property and getting back to the rightful owner, but hopefully to make an arrest. And I really want to thank, the County Executive, the Board of Legislators, in particular, Legislators Kunzio and Kovalit, that authored this change to the legislation. I want to thank Chief Hodges, and I'll let him explain to you a little bit more about the specifics about the changes that this brought about. But it's going to make our life a lot easier, obviously, with the electronic reporting. And as the County Executive mentioned, reporting via paper was, a voluminous task for someone to go through and try to identify a piece of jewelry that may have been stolen. And often by the time we got through that process, identified something and reached out to the agency where the crime was committed and went back to the dealer that had purchased the item, it's already been resold, and the odds of recovering that are slim to none. So hopefully, again, this will enhance our capabilities as far as making arrests, recovering the property, and reducing crime. But that being said, I just wanted to thank you, and Margaret especially, and Kitley for sponsoring this. And that's it from me. DC, do you have anything you want to add?
Commissioner Terrence Rayner.
Thank you, County Exec, Commissioner, Board of Legislators, of course. As the County Exec mentioned earlier, Having come from an urban environment, conducting investigations, using paper, and going to these different pawn shops and metal dealers, it was really voluminous. And so legislation like this really moves us as a law enforcement entity forward. And I certainly want to just echo the Commissioner's words as far as thanking those individuals who are responsible. And also at this time, it gives me great pleasure to present to you one of our own here at the Westchester County Department of Public Safety, someone who actually is intimately involved with this entire process. And Chief Inspector John Hodges is going to speak on the background and how it came about. So come on up, Chief.
Thank you, DC. And I'd like to thank the people, John Cascione, who will speak, and Jim Maizano from the Office of Consumer Protection for helping us out. This legislation originally came out in 1980. It hasn't been updated since 1985. So it's been a long time. So the original law was repealed and they reenacted a new one. The big thing is the electronic reporting. And as the Commissioner and the CE and the Deputy Commissioner mentioned, the voluminous paper. But it's also the timing of trying to get the reports. So you can just imagine they come by mail and they're delivered here, and then they're taken here at their office mail and they're taken to another unit, and then they take the paper out. Almost by the time we get the information into the database, it could approach, a 2-week time period, because by law the items, have to be held for 14 days. And this is in no way deals with any first-hand retail. As the DC mentioned, pawn shops, anyone who deals in second-hand items, that's historically been a mechanism for any stolen property, proceeds of burglaries, is where the potential is that they'll be brought in to be sold. If we can identify the items and have serial numbers and then get that information back faster, obviously, and some of the items are of value. I'm sure, I listened to some of the county legislators and the people at the hearings. People who have been the victims of burglaries or larcenies, I mean, it's not only the money value, sometimes it's sentimental value of items that, they may never get back, that may have come through generations. I mean, it could have been, their, family members and things like that, gems, jewelry, specific rings and things like that. So the electronic reporting is big. We've also looked at and addressed some of the current day items that are electronic, that are now a lot smaller, that can be the proceeds of burglaries. And we also looked at licensing and the penalties, so that if we do have somebody who repeats these acts, we have the ability to either revoke or suspend their license, or in fact, where we jumped up any subsequent second and third violations of the law to be misdemeanors. So that's essentially where we're at, and I think maybe John Gascione, helped us out a lot with this legislation.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Hodges, and thank you, County Executive and Legislator Cuneo, Commissioner. On behalf of Consumer Protection, this is a win-win bill and soon to be law. We worked hand in hand with County Police. It reestablished some old relationships that we missed out on, and it, excuse me, we're able to do a lot of things. We share information regularly, but this enhanced it that much more. As Chief Hodges mentioned, there is a licensing component. We'll be taking care of that, but we'll also be regularly in the retail establishments checking their scales, sign postage, more consumer information. If you or I just walked in there and had something we wanted to sell, you'll now know the price of the metal that's involved, gold, silver. You'll also learn about what the different weights are. People talk about carats and all kinds of different. There's two carats. There's a carrot with a K, carrot with a C, and there's a carrot you eat. So that distinguished. So that consumer information will be out there that maybe wasn't available to everybody before. So again, thank you to everybody involved, and we're looking forward to it. As Chief Hodges said, it was 1985 the last time this was updated, and we'll be happy that we don't have to sell our paper books anymore for recording. Thank you.
And in addition to John working in Consumer Protection, Jim Maizano is the Director of Consumer Protection, and this is one of those initiatives that he takes full credit for as well. From the Board of Legislators, Margaret Cunzio not only represents this area, but has been a strong supporter of law enforcement initiatives and at every turn. Margaret?
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here as the Chairwoman of Public Safety. Any time that we can give the Department of Public Safety and its officers tools to be more effective and efficient with their job, I think we need to do that. The idea here is that it will give the law enforcement officers the opportunity to reunite stolen items with the rightful owners in a quick, timely fashion. I want to say thank you to everyone involved. This was not something that happened overnight. I think that everyone here has really focused on the fact that all the departments, consumer protection, public safety, the Board of Legislators really worked together through many meetings, committee meetings, coming up with a piece of legislation that works, bringing us into the 21st century and hopefully making things a little easier for those that have had items stolen, that they can get those items back, and the bad guys will be taken care of. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
Now comes the good part.
So without any further ado, with this outstanding pen, I'm going to sign this local law and make it operative. This was, let me get to the correct page. This bill was passed on the 16th day of September, 17 votes in favor, none against. And we are here on the 15th day of October.
Yes.
Correct.
And I'm pleased to sign it into law. Congratulations, Margaret, Board of Legislators.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Tom, John,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
John, congratulations.
Thank you.
Terrence, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
So we'll open it up for any questions that our friends in the press may have. You can direct it to any of our friends up here to answer. Just go on to the mic so they haven't picked up the sound.
Was there a heightened sense that there was items being stolen and jewelry being stolen that sort of perpetuated this into getting passed and signed?
John? Sorry, I'll jockey you around.
Well, I think part of what sparked it probably was the opioid and heroin problems that existed and other drug problems. I think that fueled part of the need for people to try and sell stolen items to get quick cash. So that was part of it. And then just looking at it after that, we knew that the paper records were not efficient. So, but I think the heroin and opioid epidemic definitely fueled the impetus behind it.